Anyone who grew up in the 90s or 2000s has played superhero, and if you lived through that era, you definitely remember the hype of getting your friends together and yelling, "It's Morphin time," right in the middle of the street. Power Rangers is one of those massive franchises hardwired into our DNA, but as time went on, a lot of people thought the formula would become too childish or repetitive. That's where the huge surprise we are revisiting today comes in. Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Basically, the show took that classic dinosaur magic, mashed it up with the Breakfast Club, and brought back the franchise's greatest hero, the legendary Tommy Oliver, now laying low as a paleontology teacher. But the biggest triumph of this season is that it doesn't just rely on nostalgia. It has real heart in how it develops its misfit teens, and especially in its sinister villain, who shares a body with the adoptive father of one of the Rangers, creating a family drama in true Green Goblin fashion. So buckle up, because today we're talking about Power Rangers Dino Thunder, a trip back to your childhood, but way better than you remember it. We open with Dr. Tommy Oliver running for his life through a dense jungle. He is being relentlessly hunted by an unseen force screaming to find him at any cost. Tommy narrowly evades several bizarre creatures, plunges into the sea, and watches from a distance as the entire island is engulfed in flames and sinks. One year later, Tommy has transitioned into a much quieter life as a paleontology teacher at Reefside High. He meets the new principal, Miss Randall, and immediately deals with Barbs from Cassidy, the quintessential student reporter who loves to poke her nose where it doesn't belong. In this setting, we meet our primary trio. Connor, the soccer star, is caught cutting class by the principal. Kira, an aspiring musician, is caught playing guitar on campus without permission, and Ethan, a tech prodigy, is caught hacking the school's sprinklers. Their punishment? 1 week of detention with Mr. Oliver. Instead of locking them in a classroom Breakfast Club style, Tommy takes them to a museum and proposes a deal. If they find something prehistoric in the forest, their detention is canceled. While the students search, Tommy notices the museum is now run by Dr. Anton Mercer, which visibly disturbs him. To make matters worse, he is soon confronted by a robotic T-Rex. An intense car chase through the streets ensues, ending only when the dinosaur crashes into a bridge and shuts down. In the forest, the field trip goes south. The three teens fall into a hole and end up in a dark cavern. Exploring the area, they stumble upon a high-tech underground hideout, the Dino Lab, and decide to take some glowing stones, the Dino Gems, from a pedestal, because in every group of teenagers, touching unknown artifacts always seems like a great idea. Upon returning to the surface, they are attacked by the same creatures that hunted Tommy in the past, the Pteranodrones. They soon discover the gems have granted them extraordinary abilities. Connor gains super speed, Kira discovers a destructive sonic scream, and Ethan's skin becomes impenetrable. They use their new powers to obliterate the monsters. When they reunite with Tommy, they pretend nothing happened. Back at school, Connor insists they keep it a secret. Kira, having no patience for the madness, hands her gem back to the boys and walks away. However, she is immediately kidnapped by more creatures. Desperate, Connor and Ethan rush to Tommy's estate to ask for help. While looking for him, they find a secret passage in his office, leading directly to the forest hideout. Tommy catches them snooping, and the tension peaks. Meanwhile, in a distant fortress, a menacing dinosaur-like creature, Mesogog, prepares to interrogate Kira. With Kira in the enemy's hands, there's no more room for secrets. Ethan and Connor come clean to Tommy about the attack, and the three set off immediately to rescue her. Kira learns the hard way that she is imprisoned in a fortress on a sinister island. Undeterred, she engages in hand-to-hand combat with the henchwoman Elsa and attempts to escape. However, the cyborg Zeltrax and his squad are close behind. During the frantic chase, Kira finds an energy portal and with no other choice, is sucked through. While driving his Jeep in search of clues, Tommy finally reveals the truth. He identifies the monsters as Pteranodrones and reveals they are his own creation. Years ago, Tommy attempted to combine dinosaur DNA with cutting-edge technology alongside his partner, the wealthy scientist Dr. Anton Mercer, but Mercer disappeared mysteriously. Shortly after Mesogog attacked and destroyed the lab, Tommy was certain the research was ruined forever. History class is interrupted when Kira literally falls from the sky, expelled by the portal right into the middle of the search party.
I mean, she's not just gonna fall out of the sky and land right in front of us. Huh?
The relief is short-lived, as Zeltrax and the Pteranodrones used the same rift. The group defends themselves, forcing Zeltrax to retreat, but the cyborg makes it clear the war has only just begun. The next day, Mesogog proves he isn't bluffing and orders a direct attack on the city. 3 giant mechanical dinosaurs begin devastating the streets, while Zeltrax coordinates a ruthless aerial bombardment. Left with no alternative, Tommy takes the youths back to the Dino lab and hands them the morphers. He explains they must become Power Rangers to tame the Biozords that are destroying everything. Skeptical but understanding the gravity of the situation, the 3 accept the responsibility. They rush to the city and morph for the first time, emerging as the Dino Thunder Rangers.
Ready! Ready! Dino Thunder, power up!
That's totally rough!
When the Pteranodrones interfere, Tommy, operating from the base, guides the Rangers to draw their unique weapons. They combine their arsenal to form the Z-Rex Blaster and land a direct hit on Zeltrax. Subsequently, they manage to tame the wild Biozords, uniting them into the massive Thundersaurus Megazord.
You can do it. Okay, let's do it! Yeah!
Using the Tyranno drill, they pierce and destroy Zeltrax's craft, an impeccable first day on the job. At the enemy base, Mesogog punishes Zeltrax and Elsa with a psychic brain blast, driving home the lesson that he does not tolerate failure. On the hero's side, Tommy hands out communicators to the team. He gives them a reality check. Their lives will never be the same, but he guarantees that if they work as a team, they will be unstoppable. Ethan takes Kira and Connor to his favorite spot, Haley's cyberspace. There they meet Haley, the owner. She's already well connected. She invites Kira's band to play on her stage and informs Connor about the soccer team tryouts. It feels like a normal high school day until Tommy calls Ethan with a new mission. In the middle of the forest, Tommy and Ethan find 3 massive Dinozord eggs. Tommy gives the classic mentor explanation. When these hatch, the Rangers can use them as mounts. However, Elsa, Zeltrax, and the Pteranodrones appear to spoil the discovery. Ethan alerts the others. Everyone morphs, and with Connor and Kira's combined strength, the villains are forced to retreat. The only problem is the battle takes too long, and Connor misses his soccer tryout. Later at the cafe, Kira and Ethan meet Trent, the new kid in town who just started working there. Connor, however, is in no mood for friends. He's frustrated. His secret hero life is sabotaging his normal life, and he decides to quit. When he tells Tommy, the professor reacts calmly, simply asking him to think it over. Tommy goes a step further. He calls the school coach, takes the blame for the delay, and secures a second chance for the boy. Mesogog, knowing the Rangers are growing stronger, sends a new creature to attack the city. The team springs into action, but the monster tries to flee. At that moment, Tommy sends the Raptor Riders, the dinosaurs that finally hatched. They mount the creatures, chase the target, and resolve the problem using the Z-Rex Blaster. Since no villain accepts a first defeat, Mesogog uses the Hydro Regenerator to make the monster grow. The Rangers immediately summon the Megazord and finish the threat for good. In the end, Connor's decision changes not because of soccer, but because of the work itself. After saving a little girl during the attack and hearing her sincere thanks, the weight of responsibility hits him.
Anytime.
He realizes wearing the suit is bigger than any sport, and on top of that, he didn't even end up making the team. The night ends peacefully with Kira performing at the cyberspace. Tommy walks down the street toward the cafe to watch the show, but the atmosphere shifts. Zeltrax and the Pteranodrones set an ambush in the dark and kidnap the professor, leaving the team without their leader. Imprisoned in the island fortress, Tommy tries to use the oldest excuse in the book. He's just a high school science teacher. But Mesogog wasn't born yesterday. He knows perfectly well that Tommy is behind the new Rangers and demands help opening a mysterious energy crystal. When Tommy refuses, the villain wastes no time and hooks him up to a life force extractor. In the Dino lab, the mood is pure desperation. With no news since Kira's show, Ethan digs through the database for clues. Instead, they find a private documentary. Tommy left a video recording in case something went wrong, detailing his long and exhaustive history as a Power Ranger. The video is essentially a historical archive on how to save the Earth. It begins in the 90s with Zordon, Alpha 5, and the original 5 teenagers fighting Rita Repulsa. The 3 watch, jaws dropped, at the revelation that their teacher was the iconic original Green Ranger. Tommy recounts how he was controlled by the villainous before switching sides, losing his powers, and returning as the White Ranger to lead the team.
Guess who's back?
The screening is interrupted by Haley. She enters the lab, revealing she is the brain behind their technology, responsible for helping Tommy channel the energies and building the morphers. She shows security footage of the kidnapping. When Connor asks why Tommy didn't just morph and take out the Pteranodrones, the answer is a cold reality check. He no longer has his powers. While Haley tries to hack Mesogog's systems for an invisiportal, the trio continues marathoning their teacher's legacy. It's an insane timeline of global threats and suit changes. Lord Zed, the transition to ninja powers, the Zeo era against the Machine Empire, and the passing of the torch in the Turbo era. It becomes clear Tommy spent most of his youth fighting monsters. The database continues through the following generations: space travel against Astronema, the Lost Galaxy Colony, and the demons faced by the Lightspeed Rescue Team. Seeing the Time Force files, Connor suggests contacting them to travel back in time. Haley keeps it real. Most of those past heroes no longer have access to their powers. After going through the Wild Force and Ninja Storm histories, Connor tries to de-stress by mimicking some moves his brother taught him. In a fit of frustration, he kicks a piece of lab equipment. In a stroke of inexplicable luck, the jolt to the computer jumpstarts the system, finally triangulating the enemy portal's location. Tommy's video ends with a direct message. He says that if anything happens to him, he knows the Earth is in the best possible hands with the new generation. Impressed by their mentor's blind faith, Connor, Ethan, and Kira arm themselves. Haley activates the portal. They have to be fast. On the island, Mesogog's machine is already mercilessly draining Tommy's life. Mesogog's base isn't exactly the kind of place you walk into through the front door, so Haley proves once again she's the brains of the operation. She gives the Rangers the Raptor cycles, bikes specifically developed to bypass the invisiportal security barrier without them being crushed. The problem is that Elsa and Zeltrax are already waiting on the other side. They set up a reception committee with a monster called Pollinator and an entire army of Pteranodrones. The fight is intense, but the three teens punch their way through, cross the portal, and breach the fortress. Inside, they find and free Tommy, but their exit is blocked by the master of the house. Mesogog decides to handle the intrusion personally and prepares a psychic blast to fry everyone's brains. However, in a moment of pure villainous incompetence, Mesogog's own henchmen teleport directly into the line of fire, taking the hit instead of the Rangers. Sometimes the universe just helps out. Seizing the opening, the group flees toward the portal, and Tommy manages to snatch a mysterious stone on his way out. Once outside, the tension returns to its peak. Zeltrax intercepts the group and fires a direct blast at the veteran. Tommy tries to use the stone to defend himself. An explosion occurs, and for an agonizing second, it looks like he's been disintegrated. But you don't become the greatest Ranger in history for nothing. He emerges from the smoke, intact. The black Dino gem has granted him the power of invisibility. Without wasting time, he slots the gem into the Brachiomorpher and does what he was born to do. He morphs into the Black Ranger. From there, the tide turns completely. Tommy goes head-to-head with Zeltrax, Connor holds off Elsa, and Ethan and Kira finish Pollinator with a clean shot from the Z-Rex blaster. Naturally, Mesogog doesn't accept defeat and makes the monster grow, but the energy of the new gem awakens the colossal Brachiozord. Haley sends the rest of the fleet into battle, and with the Cephalozord taking the place of the Megazord's arm, the monster is obliterated for good. Back at the cyberspace with the adrenaline stabilized, Kira asks the obvious question. How did Tommy already have a morpher ready for a gem he just found? He explains he had been tracking that exact gem's energy the day he was kidnapped. In the end, the rescue mission just expedited the process. He closes the day with a smile, saying he's going to need some new black clothes for his wardrobe. With the full team assembled and their leader back in action, life at the cyberspace tries to return to normal. Kira is on stage singing, but she feels the audience is more interested in themselves than her music. At the table with friends, the conversation turns to a pop star named Kylie Styles. Here comes the classic VH1 style backstory. Kira reveals the two were best friends and had a band together until Kylie was discovered, signed with an agent, and became an unreachable pop diva. Connor and Ethan are skeptical that their friend used to hang out with a magazine cover girl, girl, but Ethan finds out online that the singer is in town to promote her new CD. While this teen drama unfolds, the mood at the cafe turns heavy. Anton Mercer walks through the door. Yep, the same Mercer Tommy swore had died in the island explosion years ago, and who happens to be Trent's father. Tommy tries to approach his former partner to discuss the experiments that fell into the wrong hands, but Mercer is ice cold. He cuts the conversation short, claims he wants nothing to do with the past, and leaves. Later, Trent tries to get answers from his father about the professor but hits the same wall of silence. Parallel to this, Mesogog is creating a new nightmare focused on draining life energy. The result is Donkey Vac, a freakish creature that literally steals people's youth. Unaware of this, Connor and Kira go to Kylie's autograph session. The singer confirms everything Kira said. She acts like a snob and ignores her old friend as soon as she hears the word press. But karma hits fast. Donkey Vac crashes the event and begins his feast. He sucks the energy from several attendees, including reporter Cassidy and her sidekick Devin, and ages Kylie by decades in seconds. The boys morph and engage the beast, while Kira stays behind to care for a now elderly and desperate Kylie, reminding her of simpler times. The street situation scales quickly, as Zeltrax appears to continue his personal vendetta against Tommy. When Kira finally joins the fray, the quartet uses the Z-Rex blaster to destroy the monster. Mesogog applies the usual formula and grows Donkey Vac. The creature tries to use its power to drain the Thundersaurus Megazord, but it gets the worst of it when the T-Rex's tail drill goes through its stomach. Game over. With the monster's destruction, everyone's youth is restored. Kylie, with her face and humility back in place, realizes what truly matters. The two former friends make up and share the stage at the cyberspace for a duet that ends the night. Over at Haley's cyberspace, Ethan is living that moment every gamer knows well, absolute rage against an NPC. He is so focused on the game Wizard Wood that he ignores everything else, and his stress levels lead him to bump into Trent, causing him to drop a tray of drinks. The reason for all the hate? A wizard named Beldorf who simply won't let Ethan pass the level. He's the classic boss that tests anyone's sanity. In Mesogog's fortress, the new monster of the week senses this opening. In a bizarre move, he uses that connection to suck Ethan into the game. It's literally a Tron-style scenario, where Ethan suddenly finds himself trapped in the world of pixels and magic he was cursing minutes before. Meanwhile, in the real world, tension is high at training. Tommy, Kira, and Connor are waiting for Ethan to show up. Dr. Oliver, assuming his classic demanding mentor persona, is not happy with the delay. Connor, however, sports an indifferent attitude, thinking it's just training and there's no need for drama. Inside the game, Ethan's situation changes fast. He finally comes face to face with the weird wizard, but before he can complain about the difficulty, an army of Triptoids attacks. He isn't alone for long. Kira, who had gone out to look for him, ends up sucked into the virtual world as well. With few options, the two log in to Ranger mode, morph right then and there, and start laying into the digital henchman. Back in reality, Connor encounters Mesogog's monster. A fight breaks out, and in the chaos, Connor lands a blow that acts like an eject button on the monster's system. He accidentally frees Ethan and Kira. The catch is that the whole package comes through. The Triptoids are also ejected into the real world, and the server-side fight spills into the city. With the team reunited, Connor morphs and the Rangers press the attack, forcing the monster to strategically retreat. But the real surprise comes when the dust settles. They look to the side and realize the game's wizard also hitched a ride to our world, an NPC walking freely on the street. Of course, the monster doesn't give up easily and returns for a second round. This time, Connor and Tommy lead the charge. The team dynamic flows, the three teens combine their weapons and fire the Z-Rex blaster at full power. As per tradition, the monster is destroyed, only to return giant-sized moments later. Without missing a beat, the Rangers call the Thundersaurus Megazord and finish the creature for good. With the city safe, only one problem remains: what to do with a video game wizard in the real world. Fortunately, Haley steps in and creates a way to transport the guy back to his game. The Rangers say their goodbyes and the world returns to normal. As the routine tries to settle, problems escalate on the other side. Tired of seeing his monsters destroyed, Zeltrax enters the Geno randomizer hoping for a power upgrade, but the machine has other plans. Instead of making him stronger, it creates a super-powered clone called Goldenrod. To make things weirder, the creature looks at Zeltrax and calls him father. He and Elsa have no idea what just happened. Elsewhere, at the cyberspace, Trent is stressed out. He's swamped with work and dealing with Cassidy's absurd demands. Ethan, seizing the chance to cause chaos, hacks the reporter's laptop so that it screams with every keystroke. The prank lasts until Anton Mercer enters the cafe. He evaluates his son's work with disdain, decides it's beneath him, and leaves with an idea in his head. Later, Zeltrax sends his new son to eliminate Tommy. Unaware of the danger, Dr. Oliver gives Trent a ride and asks about his relationship with Anton. Trent explains he is adopted. His biological parents died in a cave-in during an excavation with Anton, who took him in after the tragedy. The conversation is cut short when Goldenrod starts chasing the car. Tommy swerves and calls the Rangers. Zeltrax appears to support his son, and when the heroes arrive, it's total confusion. Seeing the cyborg villain acting like a proud father wasn't on anyone's bingo card. At home, Anton reveals his plan. He bought the land the cyberspace sits on and made Trent the new owner. Trent refuses the offer, but his father is unyielding. The next day, Haley receives an eviction notice. Tommy suggests talking to a friend of his at City Hall to try and reverse the paperwork, and the gang sets off to save the cafe. During the meeting with Councilwoman Sanchez, Goldenrod and Zeltrax attack. While the Rangers fight, Trent acts fast and pulls the Councilwoman out of the line of fire. Grateful for her life, she offers a favor, and Trent asks for the only thing that matters, that she stops his father from closing the cyberspace. The fight scales and Goldenrod grows giant, forcing the Rangers to call the Megazord. On the ground, Tommy faces Zeltrax head-on and, with a well-placed strike from his Brachio staff, destroys the Golden clone single-handedly. Zeltrax retreats in a fury, swearing revenge for the loss of his brief family. Back at the mansion, Trent goes to the office to confront his father about the mess, but he finds something impossible: an open invisiportal in the middle of the room. Before he can back away, he is sucked inside. At the same time, Anton arrives at the cyberspace ready to demolish the place, but is blocked by Councilwoman Sanchez and Haley. Defeated by bureaucracy, Anton simply turns his back and leaves. On the street, the portal spits Trent out onto the sidewalk, right in front of the cafe. Ethan appears shortly after, notices nothing out of the ordinary, and simply calls him inside. Trent remains paralyzed, trying to process the dark secret he just discovered inside his own home. At Haley's cyberspace, the atmosphere is exactly what you'd expect from a group of teenagers. Ethan is gaming at max volume, freaking out because he finally reached level 12. Connor, completely out of patience, simply walks over and shuts off the guy's computer. 3 hours of progress down the drain, but Kira couldn't care less. She's focused on her schoolwork. Ethan mentions that he and Trent finished theirs ages ago, which begs the question, where did Trent disappear to? Over at the Mercer estate, Trent is playing detective in his father's office, trying to find that bizarre invisible portal he was sucked into before. He finds nothing but runs into Anton Mercer, who drops the classic corporate villain line: "You need to prepare yourself because one day, all of this will be yours." Trent just wanted a straight answer about what's going on, but he's forced to swallow his father's pressure for now. Meanwhile, Tommy takes the team on a dinosaur dig. Principal Randall decides to tag along, sticking to Tommy with a sweetness that no one is buying. Cassidy, with her reporter's nose for trouble, already smells a scandal. In the dirt, the Rangers find a unique dinosaur egg. Of course, a school field trip in Reefside wouldn't be complete without a Pteranodrone attack. The egg gets tossed around in the chaos, and Tommy makes a cinematic dive to save Principal Randall. They take the egg back to the lab, but the energy readings come up empty. Tommy picks up a heat signature in the forest and goes to investigate. The problem is, back at the dig site, Principal Randall finds the real egg, reveals her true form as Elsa, and takes control of a new Dino Zord, the Dimetrazord. When Ethan finally manages to open the fake egg at the lab, a hologram of Elsa pops out just to laugh in their faces. Kira is officially over that evil laugh. To make matters worse, the monitors show the real Dimetrazord laying waste to the city. In the forest, Tommy goes head-to-head with Zeltrax, but the fight is cut short when Mesogog recalls his henchman, telling him to swallow his jealousy for the day. The Rangers head to the city, where the Megazord takes a brutal beating from the Dimetrazord and its accompanying monster. The tide turns when Tommy manages to break Elsa's spell over the new Zord. With the Dimetrazord now on the right side of the fight, they turn the monster into stardust. Back at the fortress, Mesogog is deciding whom to punish first. Elsa plays her card, claiming she is gaining Tommy's trust. Mesogog orders her to stay close to him, much to Elsa's chagrin. grin as she finds the professor too good to tolerate for long. The next day, the school TV news announces Principal Randall as the great hero of the attack. In the hallway, Tommy checks in to see if she's okay. She is genuinely surprised by his concern, has a flashback to his rescue, and leaves looking disoriented. Tommy is left confused, but Connor sees it all and doesn't miss the chance to tease his teacher about the romantic tension. The talk at cyberspace is all about tech until the door opens and the vibe shifts completely. Nikki Valentina, the pop star and it girl actress of the moment, walks in. Connor and Ethan go into total shock. Ethan literally hyperventilates and has to breathe into a paper bag. The only one immune to the spell is Kira, who immediately clocks the celebrity's arrogant posture. Haley tries to serve the star, but Nikki demands a drink that isn't even on the menu and tries to settle the issue by tossing a $100 bill on the counter. Haley doesn't budge and refuses the money. Cassidy, seeing the opportunity of a lifetime, tries to pitch herself to co-star in a Baywatch-style series with Nikki. The actress cuts her off ruthlessly, shoves an autograph into her hand, and leaves. Utterly offended, Cassidy vows revenge. Trent, as per usual, cancels his plans with Kira because he needs to get home. There, Anton Mercer continues his succession monologue, demanding his son focus on the company's numbers and be ready to take over should anything happen. Trent sits at the desk and pretends to analyze reports, but goes back to drawing his comics the moment his father's back is turned. Far from there, Mesogog has lost his patience with Elsa and Zeltrax's failures. He decides he needs perfect DNA, and for some reason, deems Nikki Valentina's genetics the ideal choice, sending a monster after her. Tommy tracks the energy of another Dino Zord egg and sends the Rangers to the beach, where Tyrannodrones are attacking a film set. The catch? Nikki is there. Connor and Ethan get so distracted drooling over the actress that the monster of the week, Megalodor, steamrolls them and kidnaps the girl in front of everyone. At Mesogog's island, Nikki is tied to a chair. Instead of panicking, the diva tries to invoke Screen Actors Guild rules, saying she didn't sign a contract for this. The villains burst out laughing. Realizing she won't be getting any VIP treatment, she simply finds a way to escape on her own. Back at the beach, Cassidy is making Devin simulate a drowning to film a rescue video to outshine Nikki's fame. Suddenly, the real Nikki runs past. The monster fires a blast at her, and Devin, acting on instinct, pulls her out of the way.
You're even braver than a Power Ranger. Have you ever thought of a career as an action hero?
The actress is enchanted, saying he'd make a great action star. Devin tries to set a romantic mood, but Nikki shuts him down instantly, stating her only goal in life is to have more stuff than Jennifer Lopez. The two leave together, leaving Cassidy fuming at her own camera. Haley finally finds the egg in the sand, which hatches into the Stegazord. While Tommy distracts Zeltrax, the Rangers manage to tame the new Zord. With this heavy backup, Megalodor is finished off in no time. The next day, Connor and Ethan try for a second chance to talk to Nikki, but they retreat when they overhear the actress telling her crew she'll vomit if she meets one more fanboy. Kira gives them the "I told you so" look, while Devin is living the dream, lying on the sand, being rescued by Nikki for the cameras. Cassidy, meanwhile, ends up being escorted off the set by security. The sun is barely up and Haley is already on guard after hearing a strange noise in cyberspace. But it's a false alarm. It's just Trent, drawing at 7 a.m. He vents that his father, Anton Mercer, has zero patience for his artistic side and hates that he works there. It's the classic rich father dilemma. Anything outside the business world is a waste of time. Meanwhile, in the heart of the forest, Elsa releases a mysterious energy source. Tommy picks up the explosion on his home computer and hauls the team out to investigate, but they find nothing. His veteran instincts are tingling, and Tommy gives it to them straight. There's likely a new Dino gem out there, and depending on who finds it, things could get ugly. At school, Cassidy decides the student newspaper is too small for her ego. She drags Devin to a real TV station and demands a primetime slot. The producer almost laughs in her face, but Cassidy notices a newspaper clipping about the Power Rangers in his office and makes a bold promise. She will uncover the identity of one of them. The executive bites and promises the 6 p.m. slot if she gets the exclusive. She's basically a Lois Lane in training, just with much less common sense. Back to the family drama, Trent tries to have a serious talk with his father. Anton looks terrible, sweating and appearing ill, but maintains his authoritarian stance, demanding obedience before turning away. Trent doesn't let it go and follows him, only to see his father disappear through an invisible portal in the middle of the office. Because of course, every tycoon hides a secret passage to an evil lair. Trent steps through the portal and ends up straight in Mesogog's fortress. It's there that the white Dino gem finds its new owner, bonding violently to the boy's arm. To smoke out whoever stole the gem, Elsa and Zeltrax send a monster to the city as bait. It works perfectly. The new White Ranger appears, obliterates the monster without breaking a sweat, and to prove he's not playing around, delivers a humiliating beatdown to Connor, Ethan, and Kira.
What's going on?
At the base, Mesogog is so furious with his general's incompetence that he fries Elsa and Zeltrax's brains with a psionic attack, making it clear his patience has reached its limit. Later, the Rangers try for a rematch against the White Ranger. Tommy joins the fray to level the playing field, but the result is the same. The newcomer wipes the floor with the entire team and warns them to stay out of his way or be destroyed. After the massacre, the White Ranger flees and powers down. A completely exhausted Trent collapses on the ground, just as Cassidy and Devin run past. They ask if he's seen the White Ranger. Trent lies and says no, leaning against a wall, trying to process the weight of what just happened. While the White Ranger works in secret to hatch a mysterious Dino Zord egg, Cassidy thinks she's hit the jackpot. She calls Devin to show him the exclusive footage she bought of the new Ranger, certain her TV career is set. Except the video is just a middle schooler in a cheap white costume. Furious at falling for the oldest trick in the book, she drags Devin out to hunt the kid down, slamming into Trent on their way out of cyberspace. The kid is not okay. The power of the white Dino gem is taking a massive toll on his body. He arrives late for work, pale, staggering, and ends up fainting in the middle of the shop. Kira and Ethan are worried sick, but Haley doesn't leave room for argument and sends Trent straight home to rest. At the base, Tommy detects the location of 2 Dino Zord eggs about to hatch. Ethan doesn't miss the chance to compare the mission to a Jurassic Park version of an Easter egg hunt, but the situation is urgent. The team splits up. Connor and Kira head to an abandoned warehouse, while Tommy and Ethan head to the docks. In the city, Cassidy and Devin finally corner the kids who sold them the fake video. During the chase, the kids run past Trent, who collapses and uncontrollably morphs into the White Ranger due to the strain. Oblivious to this, Cassidy makes the kids promise to meet her at 6 p.m. to settle the scam. The egg hunt heats up at the warehouse. Connor and Kira find their target, but also run into the White Ranger. An intense battle erupts immediately.
I don't have time to play Rangers.
However, Mesogog has also sensed the newcomer's energy signature and wants that power for himself. On his command, Elsa creates the monster Angor and sets him loose on the docks. With the city in a panic, Connor and Kira have to swallow their pride, abandon the fight against the White Ranger, and rush to help Ethan. It's the hero tax. Saving civilians always comes before personal vendettas. The three summon the Megazord, and with backup from Haley, who sends the new Parasaur Zord, they combine the machines and destroy Angor with a fatal strike. While the giant team handles the monster, Tommy tries to return to the warehouse to intercept the White Ranger, but is ambushed by Zeltrax. The fight between the two delays Tommy long enough for the worst to happen. When he finally gets rid of the cyborg, the White Ranger's egg has already hatched. The building begins to collapse under the creature's power, forcing the veteran to retreat. To top off Cassidy's day, she shows up at the meeting point at 6 p.m. only to be greeted by a shower of trash thrown by the kids. But the real problem is right in front of the Rangers. The White Ranger now has total control over the powerful White Dragon Zord. He squares up against the team's Megazord, and the stage is set for a colossal confrontation.
You guys ready for this?
I guess so.
Let's do it.
The giant robot brawl is already tearing up the city. The White Ranger doesn't just go toe-to-toe with the team. He steals control of the Stegazord, forms his own Megazord, and literally dismantles the Ranger's Thundersaurus Megazord with brute force. Tommy barely manages to regain control of the Stegazord before the villain vanishes. As the city deals with the destruction and debris falls from the sky, the reporter duo Cassidy and Devin get caught in the chaos. Devin gets separated in the crowd and ends up in an alley, where he stumbles upon the scoop of the century, the White Ranger powering down. He points his camera, ready for glory, but takes a wrong step, hits his head on a pipe, and passes out. Pure slapstick comedy, but the camera keeps rolling. With the Zords damaged, Tommy tells the team to cool off and take a break. Connor goes to play soccer and notices Trent sitting in the bleachers, looking terrible. The boy refuses any help and bolts. Connor's hero instincts flare up. He follows Trent but falls straight into an ambush by the White Ranger. The fight between the Red and White Rangers is intense. The newcomer plays dirty, tricking Connor repeatedly. Furious, Connor activates a spike-covered power-up, gains the upper hand, and knocks the enemy down.
So not over. Dino power!
But in a moment of pure naivety, he approaches to check if his opponent is okay. The result? He gets played again. The White Ranger is about to deliver the final blow when Mesogog and Zeltrax appear out of nowhere. Mesogog, noting the boy's natural talent for violence, tries to recruit him on the spot. The invitation is rejected, but Mesogog decides to leave Connor alive just to serve as bait later. They vanish, and the White Ranger returns to his Zord to obliterate a monster named Angor that was passing by, just to show who's boss. Back to the comic relief. Devin finally wakes up, remembers he recorded the White Ranger's face, and rushes to tell Cassidy. She almost cries with joy until he mentions he left the camera at the scene. Late that night, Tommy goes to a warehouse to pick up some gear when Trent stumbles in. Tommy tries to help, but Trent loses control completely. The gem glows, and he transforms into the White Ranger right there in front of his mentor. The two trade blows, and when Tommy tries to signal Haley on his communicator, the White Ranger fires an energy beam that turns Tommy into a solid amber statue. The secret is kept in the worst way possible.
White Ranger is... it's...
The mood in the lab is funeral-like. Haley managed to recover Tommy, but he's now basically a giant ranger-shaped resin ornament. The good news is the amber block is keeping his vitals stable. The bad news is no one has any idea how to break it. Meanwhile, Trent wanders the streets of Reefside looking like he hasn't slept in a week. The bracelet flashes, and in an instant, all the memories of what he did as the White Ranger flood his mind. He is terrified of his own actions. Trying to get away from everything, he goes to cyberspace, quits his job, and tries to disappear. Kira notices his desperation and corners him, demanding an explanation. Trent is a second away from confessing the truth when Cassidy storms the cafe stage, announcing over the mic that she's about to reveal the White Ranger's identity. Panic hits all the disguised heroes. Fortunately, Devin runs in and says he lent the camera to his sister. The big reveal is cancelled, but the distraction is enough for Trent to vanish. He runs to an alley, but the gem's power takes over again. Transformed, he is ambushed by Elsa and Zeltrax, sent by Mesogog. The Rangers arrive just in time, the villains retreat, and the trio is left to fight the White Ranger. Kira activates her Super Dino mode, but she takes a beating and loses her transformation. The villain raises his weapon for the kill, but upon seeing Kira's face, Trent's memories freeze his arm. Connor and Ethan take advantage of the hesitation to attack, forcing the Ranger to retreat. Kira doesn't give up on finding Trent. She finds him, sees a sketchbook full of White Ranger drawings, and puts the pieces together. Trent breaks down and confesses everything. He has no control over the gem. She believes him and runs to call the others. But as soon as Kira's back is turned, Tyrannodrones kidnap Trent and drag him to Mesogog. At the lair, the villain discovers his new enemy is Anton Mercer's adopted son. Mesogog guarantees that the gem's evil side will consume him soon, but Trent isn't interested in talk. He transforms and escapes. When Kira tells the team the truth, Connor and Ethan don't buy it so easily. After all, this is the kid who fossilized their leader. The tension is interrupted when the White Ranger appears, attacking the city with his Megazord. The battle goes to a giant scale. Haley sends new backup, the Ankylozord, creating a metallic tug-of-war between the two Megazords. The Rangers get the upper hand and manage to defeat Trent's machine. Away from the mess, Devin finally brings the camera to Cassidy. They press play, expecting to unmask the villain, but Devin's sister recorded a birth video over the entire tape. Cassidy faints right there on the counter. By the lake, Kira finds Trent one last time. Terrified of what the gem is doing to his mind, he makes a drastic decision. He needs to leave town to protect everyone from himself. Ignoring Kira's pleas to stay and get help, he throws his sketchbook into the water and leaves. While Trent tries to put as much distance as possible between himself and the city, the universe decides to throw a rock in his path. Literally, a meteor crashes right in the middle of the forest, attracting everyone nearby, including reporters Cassidy and Devin. The Rangers quickly show up to investigate with one clear idea: the energy from this space rock might be the key to freeing Tommy from his amber prison. Mesogog, who can't stand to see the team get a new toy, sends one of his monsters to retrieve the stone. The problem is, the creature sent is pathetic, the most cowardly being in his entire army. But during the confrontation in the forest, the meteor emits a massive energy pulse that hits everyone present, and the effect is, to say the least, bizarre. When Mesogog's monster returns to base, he's no longer a punching bag. He's transformed into a highly aggressive brute, and he wasn't the only one who changed. Haley soon realizes the Rangers' personalities have been completely inverted, bringing out sides of them no one wanted to see. Connor, the classic jock focused only on sports, becomes a studious genius. Ethan drops the tech, hits the weights, and becomes an arrogant meathead. Kira abandons her rebellious stance and embraces the life of a fashionista it girl.
Ethan, are you sure you feel okay?
Oh, excessively low humidity. Whatever, bro.
How do my arms look?
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
The energy pulse was so strong it even changed the school dynamic. Devin miraculously became the coolest guy in Reefside, while Cassidy turned into a nerd begging for his attention. Pure Freaky Friday chaos hitting the city. Even with their minds scrambled, duty calls, the buff monster attacks, and the Rangers have to face him with their strange new attitudes. They focus, use their super dino power, and manage to take down the threat. At the lair, Mesogog is done with failure. He punishes Zeltrax and Elsa by frying their minds with a psionic blast before turning the monster giant. The big advantage for the team is that the meteor also affected Trent. The radiation suppressed the white gem's evil influence, bringing back the essence of the real Trent. He joins the fight to help the Rangers, and together, they destroy the creature for good. Knowing they can't live with those alternate personalities, the team pulverizes the main meteor, breaking the space spell and bringing sanity back to everyone. They collect a remaining fragment of the rock and take it to the base. Their theory was right. The fragment's energy melts the amber and finally frees Tommy, but the celebration ends quickly. When he tries to power down, he discovers the energy fused his dino gem to his morpher. Tommy is permanently stuck inside his ranger suit, which is definitely going to make grocery shopping and his job as a teacher difficult.
Power down.
Game. The Rangers know they need to keep a close eye on Trent, but the guy doesn't seem the least bit worried. He leans against the school lockers, radiating confidence. When Principal Randall calls Trent into her office to recruit him for a team, he simply plays along in their cat and mouse game. With an ironic smirk, Trent informs her that he's already been invited to join a team, but he turned them down because he doesn't like hanging out with losers. In the classroom, the buzz is all about who will replace Dr. Oliver. Cassidy, citing her questionable journalistic sources, guarantees it'll be an 80-year-old kindergarten teacher, but the door swings open and in walks Dr. Anton Mercer. The shock is universal, and Trent's smug expression immediately vanishes.
Your teacher, Dr. Anton Mercer.
Mercer wastes no time handing out permission slips for a field trip to the dinosaur museum. The Rangers are outraged by the hypocrisy of a man supervising teenagers when he can't even handle his own son. Mercer tries to reach out to Trent right there, but the boy simply turns his back and walks away. Back at the lab, Kira finds a mysterious bone, but Tommy immediately shuts her down, warning that it must remain locked away for safety. During the museum trip, while Mercer guides the students, Kira wanders off and stumbles upon the Fossilidor, a fossil with mind control abilities. A single touch is all it takes for her to fall completely under its thrall. Lost to the Fossilidor's influence, Kira ditches her friends at the cyberspace and feeds Tommy a fake lead about a Dino Zord egg in the forest to clear out the base. With Tommy chasing ghosts in the woods, Kira invades the lab and steals the forbidden bone. When Tommy returns and realizes the deception, he reveals the gravity of the situation. That bone was part of an experiment that spiraled completely out of control. With no time to lose, the Thundersaurus Megazord heads into battle incomplete against the Fossilidor. Amidst the chaos, Kira somehow manages to break the mental spell and arrives with the Terrazord to save the day. Meanwhile, Tommy goes head-to-head with Zeltrax and his Triptoids. Following their mentor's precise instructions, the Megazord activates the Terreno drill and reduces the Fossilidor to dust. Later at the cyberspace, Kira apologizes for her behavior. Connor and Ethan let it slide. After all, mind control is practically a rite of passage on any Ranger's resume. But Kira raises the real question. What was such a dangerous fossil doing on display in Anton Mercer's museum? Speaking of Mercer, he is in a desperate struggle against his own mind. He tries to resist, but the transformation is brutal and inevitable. Mesogog takes absolute control and leaves a clear warning for anyone listening. The age of the dinosaurs will return, with or without the Power Rangers in his way. Tension in Reefside is no longer limited to giant monsters. The school hallways have become a battlefield. Ethan accidentally kicks a soccer ball into a student named Derek's laptop, and tensions flare instantly, creating an immediate rivalry. Away from the high school drama, Kira helps Tommy organize some crates in the lab and finds an old photo. It features Tommy, Anton Mercer, and a man named Terrence Smith, nicknamed Smitty. Tommy explains that Smitty lost a coveted job to him in the past and suffered a horrific accident shortly after. Remember that name. On the villain's side, internal politics are heating up. Trent knows that Mesogog is his adoptive father and decides to play a dangerous game, proposing a secret alliance to Zeltrax. The deal is simple. Trent helps Zeltrax destroy Tommy, and in exchange, Zeltrax helps Trent overthrow Mesogog. It's basically an episode of Succession, but with cyborgs and mutants. At school, the feud between Ethan and Derek nearly turns physical, but before a punch is thrown, Zeltrax and the monster Termitron invade the hallway searching for Tommy. Ethan tries to morph, but Cassidy, Devin, and a crowd of curious students block his path. Kira takes the lead as the Yellow Ranger to buy time. Connor tries to join the fight but is subtly barred by Anton Mercer. Finally, Ethan finds an opening, morphs, and goes to help Kira. The result of the chaos? Ethan and Kira are late for class, and Mercer sends them both to detention along with Derek. On the battlefield, the Rangers fire at the monster with the Z-Rex blaster. Zeltrax thinks the plan has failed, but a cold-blooded Trent tells him to make the monster grow to distract the other Rangers and leave Tommy vulnerable. The monster grows, forcing the heroes to summon the Thundersaurus Megazord. Now it's just Tommy and Zeltrax. Tommy, visibly tired of this exhausting cycle, demands to know what the cyborg's problem is with him. Then comes the season's big plot twist. Zeltrax reveals he is Smitty.
Oh man, Smitty.
After that lab accident, Mesogog found his broken body and rebuilt him with cybernetics. Tommy tries to talk sense into his former friend, saying revenge isn't the answer, but Zeltrax is consumed by hate. Left with no choice, Tommy uses his Brachio staff to fire an energy sphere, causing Zeltrax to explode and retreat.
Dino energy orb!
The Black Ranger is left with the bitter taste of seeing his old rival transformed into a killing machine. While the Megazord finishes off Termitron, Trent goes to collect Zeltrax's end of the bargain, but is met with a massive psionic blast to the head. It's Mesogog. It turns out Zeltrax snitched on the entire plan from the start. Mesogog gives his son a brutal ultimatum. His days as a double agent are over. If Trent crosses him again, blood ties will mean absolutely nothing. The boy realizes the hard way that he is completely trapped in his father's web. At least at school, things end on a high note. Ethan uses his laptop to analyze the biomechanics of Derek's kicks, helping the guy improve his game. Derek apologizes, proving that a little technology can solve any high school drama. Night has fallen at the cyberspace, but the TV is still on. Connor and Kira go to investigate and find Ethan hypnotized by the screen. Thanks to a new satellite dish installed by Haley, they now have access to over 900 channels from around the world. Connor, remembering they have a social studies project on foreign cultures due, tries to snap his friend back to reality, but Ethan stumbles upon something much more interesting, a Japanese Power Rangers show. Kira thinks it's great. Ethan is curious, but Connor rolls his eyes. To him, a foreign series is bound to portray the Rangers inaccurately. Regardless, he ends up on the sofa after being challenged to prove his point. On screen, the Japanese Rangers are in their civilian forms, cooking curry. The Blue Ranger is seen reading about an American baseball player visiting Japan and complains about the greed of professional athletes. When the Red Ranger complains that the Yellow Ranger's food is too spicy, Connor loses his patience and turns off the TV. He argues that those Rangers have nothing to do with them. Ethan counters with the obvious: no one knows who they really are. Kira convinces the boys to give it a chance, and the TV goes back on. On the TV show side, the villain's evil plan of the week involves bad hair, specifically mushroom-shaped bowl cuts. While Connor fumes over the sheer bizarreness, Kira is entertained. The monster of the day is an improbable mix of a mushroom, a bear, and an ATM named Kachin. The creature attacks the city, forcing wigs onto people and turning everyone into money-obsessed maniacs. Connor points out how absurd the creature is, but Kira quickly reminds him of the collection of freaks they faced in real life. Fair point. The TV Rangers appear and morph. Ethan and Kira are impressed by the accuracy of the suits, but Connor, indignant over the script, decides to leave. However, he forgets his backpack and, conveniently, returns just as the American baseball player saves the heroes by batting back an attack with his club. Connor tries to maintain his skeptical pose, especially when the monster tricks the American player and infects him with the greed wig. He even stands in front of the TV, furious at seeing an American sports hero portrayed as an easy target. Ethan suggests he watch until the end before before completely flipping out. That's when the tide turns. The monster buries the Blue Ranger in coins, and Connor's attention is hooked. The brawl kicks into high gear, complete with bad puns from the Red Ranger that, surprisingly, get a laugh out of Connor. In the climax, the Blue Ranger tosses a piggy bank to the baseball player who bats it straight into the monster's face, knocking the creature out. The Rangers finish the job and win. Connor, caught up in the excitement, finally admits the show is cool. Kira notes that in the end, the difference is just a matter of perspective. The next day, Connor turns in his social studies project. The topic, the commonalities between American and Japanese cultures. Nothing like using a TV rerun to save your grade. Kira's life takes a new turn when she lands an internship at the Funky Fisherman's Cartoon Cavalcade. Cassidy, of course, is outraged at being rejected, while Devin curiously snags the other slot. But the TV glamour is short-lived. The famous Funky Fisherman, who radiates charm in front of the cameras, is an arrogant nightmare behind the scenes who treats everyone poorly, especially his co-star Marty. At Mesogog's base, the mood isn't much better. Elsa watches the kids' show and gets the brilliant idea to capture Marty and turn him into a monster. Trent laughs in her face, calling the plan stupid. Zeltrax takes offense on Elsa's behalf and tells the boy to shut his mouth. Trent, who was already looking for a reason to fight, openly challenges Zeltrax. He doesn't want to be the new guy. He wants Mesogog's second-in-command spot. Elsa warns that if they keep fighting, the boss will throw them all in the punishment chamber, and she leaves to execute her plan. Elsa and the Tyrannodrones invade the TV studio. Kira senses the danger and needs to morph, but first, she finds a way to distract Devin. What she doesn't notice is that one of the cameras is still recording. In the heat of the moment, Elsa misses a shot and accidentally traps the Funky Fisherman inside a television set, but she manages to escape with Marty. Meanwhile, on a secluded beach, Trent and Zeltrax meet to settle their differences with their fists. Whoever wins takes the second-in-command position. Trent morphs and the fight begins. Far away, Elsa throws Marty into the Geno randomizer, and he is transformed into the Mad Mackerel. The Rangers bring the TV with the trapped Funky Fisherman back to the lab, hoping Haley can find a solution. The problem is that the Mad Mackerel is already terrorizing the city, using giant lures to fish for people in the streets, and Cassidy and Devin end up hooked. Right after Cassidy discovers the studio camera recorded the Yellow Ranger in action. On the beach, things get complicated for Trent. His morpher suffers a sudden overload, forcing him to demorph and try to defend himself against Zeltrax's relentless attacks, using only his civilian skills. In the lab, the Rangers give the Funky Fisherman a moral lecture on the true meaning of friendship. Haley hands Tommy a device capable of reversing the TV process, and the team heads out to confront the monster. During the battle, Tommy uses the gadget, reflecting the Mad Mackerel's beam off the TV, and freeing the fisherman. With the hostage safe, the Rangers focus on the fight, free the captured citizens, and finish the monster with the Z-Rex blaster. The battle scales up. The Thundersaurus Megazord enters the fray and destroys the Geno randomizer configuration for good. Marty returns to normal and reunites with the fisherman, who has now, miraculously, learned to be a decent human being. On the beach, the power struggle finally concludes. Trent overcomes his disadvantages, defeats Zeltrax, and officially claims the title of second-in-command, demoting his rival to a mere number 3. At the end of the day, Devin tries to watch the tape that would reveal the Yellow Ranger's identity, but luckily for Kira, the tape is chewed up and destroyed by the equipment. The secret remains safe. The atmosphere at the cyberspace is one of total distrust. Ethan is covering Trent's shift, and the Rangers have accepted that there might be no saving their old friend. And honestly, it's hard to judge. The guy has been using his powers to make their lives a living hell without mercy. Meanwhile, Trent finds training with Tyrannodrones laughably easy. The power of the white Dino gem has gone to his head, but Anton Mercer watches with disgust. In an attempt to pull his son back to reality, Anton reveals his greatest secret. He is Mesogog.
But you are Mesogog.
Not by choice.
It wasn't an evil plan, but a dangerous experiment he tested on himself that went catastrophically wrong. Anton tries to warn him that the gem is poisoning the boy's mind, but Trent, completely under its dark influence, turns his back on his father. On the other side of the base, Zeltrax is fuming with jealousy because Mesogog clearly prefers his son. Like any good spiteful villain, he decides to act on his own. Using the Geno randomizer, he creates Copy Otter, a monster that can literally copy anything. The creature attacks the Rangers by copying their weapons and even clones reporter Cassidy into 4 identical versions, a nightmare for anyone who values high school peace and quiet. But Zeltrax's real plan is internal sabotage. He destroys his boss's lab and leaves a copy of Trent's sword to frame him. Mesogog takes the bait immediately. Trent is strapped into the life force extraction chair, about to be obliterated. It's a genuinely tense scene. The boy doesn't understand the accusation and, in absolute desperation, screams for his father. At the last possible second, Anton's mind breaks Mesogog's control. Mercer shoves the machine, causing the laser to reflect across the lab and strike the white Dino gem on his son's wrist. The explosion shatters the gem's evil coating. Trent keeps his powers, but his mind is finally his own. Anton tells his son to go help the Rangers, but begs him to keep his mutant condition a secret. In the city center, the Rangers are taking a beating from Copy Otter. Suddenly, Trent appears on his ATV, deals out some punishment, and activates Super Dino mode to shred the monster. The Rangers are lost, unsure if this is another trick. Things worsen when Zeltrax ambushes Tommy, but Trent rushes to help, proving which side he's truly on. With the giant monster destroyed by the Megazord, the team finally welcomes Trent back to the lab. The reception is warm, though it means he's recruited as the rookie who has to wash all the Zords. But the happy ending is short-lived. Zeltrax reveals to Elsa that before the monster died, he copied the energy of the white Dino gem and created an evil clone of Trent, a soulless warrior, 100% focused on destruction. Peace seems to have returned to the cyberspace. Trent has reclaimed his job, and the Rangers are happy to have their friend back. Kira, with the best of intentions, mentions that they are now a united team and shouldn't have any secrets. The comment hits Trent hard as he is single-handedly carrying the weight of knowing his father is their worst enemy. But the calm ends quickly. Zeltrax unleashes his new masterpiece, the evil White Ranger clone, accompanied by a terrifying monster called Pterosaurus. When the attack begins, the scene turns into chaos. The Rangers encounter the White Ranger and immediately assume Trent has betrayed them again. Tension skyrockets until the real Trent tears in on his ATV and saves the team. It's the perfect personification of the classic Spider-Man pointing meme. Back at the base, Connor lets his impulsiveness take over. He blames Trent for the clone's existence, even though the guy has already proven his loyalty. Tommy, acting as the level-headed veteran, cuts the argument short. He knows the copy is pure materialized energy and that they need an urgent upgrade. To Connor's annoyance, Tommy chooses to take only Trent on a side mission, ordering the others to stay behind. Of course, Connor doesn't listen. Feeling the pressure of the villains destroying the city, he drags Kira and Ethan into battle. The result is a complete disaster. His stubbornness costs them dearly, and the Dino Zords are overwhelmed and captured by Pterosaurus. Meanwhile, Trent and Tommy arrive at a secluded waterfall. Using the White Ranger's camouflage powers, Trent reveals a hidden energy source, and together, they release the legendary Shield of Triumph. The call of this new relic echoes directly in Connor's mind, who rushes to the location, abandoning the beating he was taking. Tommy explains the catch with the new toy. The shield requires the temporary sacrifice of all the Rangers' energy, but only one who is in perfect sync with the universal dinosaur energy can wield it. Trent has already done his part to unlock it. Now, in the middle of the battlefield, Tommy, Ethan, and Kira channel all their strength into the artifact. Power flows into Connor and he gains VIP access to the Triassic Ranger mode. With the shield in hand, Connor doesn't just slaughter Pterosaurus, he drags the monster into an alternate dimension where he makes the rules, obliterating the creature effortlessly. The team now has the firepower they need, and the evil clone will have to think twice before attacking again. Kira finally gets incredible news, a real chance to sign a record deal. The problem is, her timing is terrible. No one at the base has time to listen. Ethan is too busy hunting for his soulmate online, and Connor is immersed in testing the simulator for the new assault vehicle. They are saving the world, but as friends, they failed miserably at listening. Kira isn't deterred and goes to see a famous music producer. The guy has a vision for her and decides to recreate her image from scratch. The result is everything she isn't. Kira hates the transformation immediately, but when a group of kids passes by asking for autographs, she starts to doubt herself. It's the age-old music industry dilemma: stay authentic or change your personality to be a pop star. At the same time, the hero world doesn't stop. Connor and Ethan go to Mercer Industries to pick up a special part ordered by Haley and are met with a welcome committee of Pteranodrones. At the cyberspace, the situation is also tense as Trent tries to close up while Cassidy refuses to get off the computer. Later, Kira shows her new music video to the group, hoping for approval. The silence that follows is deafening. Connor, keeping it real, tells her it doesn't suit her at all, but before the artistic crisis can continue, the alarm sounds. Zeltrax enters the scene piloting the brand new aerial assault vehicle, and he didn't come to play. He launches a ground assault vehicle against the Thundersaurus Megazord, and the Rangers take a historic beating. Even the raw power of the Brachiozord isn't enough to stop the enemy machine. It's Connor's time to shine. He activates his Triassic Ranger form, the Mezzodon awakens, and brings forth the Triassic Mega Rover. Connor takes control and goes for the hit. Using the spikes on his vehicle's wheels, he destroys the traction of Zeltrax's tank, which flips and explodes in a fireball. Meanwhile, in the skies, Tommy and Zeltrax are settling things with their fists inside the craft. The controls are destroyed mid-brawl. Tommy tries to appeal to the villain's human side, calling him Smitty, reminding him of their old friendship and blaming Mesogog's manipulation. Zeltrax refuses redemption. He declares that Smitty is dead and promises to annihilate Tommy and the 4 teenagers. The ship collapses and explodes in midair. The Rangers watch from the ground, hearts in their throats, until Tommy emerges from the wreckage at the very last second. Zeltrax, on the other hand, appears to have been turned to ash.
It's all right, Rangers.
After the scare, the group watches the real recording of Kira's video, where she sings her song patiently while being herself, and the audience loves it. But the real shock of the night comes from Ethan. He finally meets his virtual soulmate face to face, and it's none other than Cassidy. The reaction from Connor, Kira, and Trent watching the couple is worthy of the big screen. Without missing a beat, the threat continues straight from the island fortress. Elsa and the evil White Ranger clone are already architecting the next attack. They set up a giant laser, but the Rangers don't give them a break. The group invades the site, clashes with the White Imposter and his Pteranodrones, and destroys the weapon before the damage is done. Away from the fight, Kira stumbles upon a curious scene. Ethan and Cassidy together. Ethan tries to downplay it, swearing they are just friends, and suggests Kira should try to get to know Cassidy beyond her shallow it-girl persona. Surprisingly, Kira takes the advice. She goes to the manager of the local TV station and convinces him to give the aspiring reporter a job interview. The boss agrees, but with a catch. Cassidy's first story will be at a sheep farm. As she leaves the station, Kira runs into Pteranodrones. It turns out Mesogog has sent a monster named Jupitor, who functions like a computer virus. The creature infiltrates the TV station's satellite dish and takes total control of the building systems. Tommy tracks the anomaly and discovers the villain's plan, and it is comically ambitious. They want to use the station's antenna to fire an attack at Jupiter's atmosphere to destroy the planet. Yes, trying to blow up the largest planet in the solar system using a local TV station's transmission equipment. The team splits up. Trent, Ethan, and Kira rush to the station, but Elsa intercepts them. Trent goes one-on-one with Elsa, but gets the worst of it. Before retreating, she makes it clear that Mesogog's plans are inevitable. Simultaneously, Cassidy's journalistic assignment at the farm goes south, ending with her falling face first into the mud. While part of the team deals with the virus, Connor has his own reckoning with the White Ranger clone. With no time for games, he assumes his Triassic Ranger form and drags the evil copy into the Triassic dimension. With the power of the Shield of Triumph, Connor finally reduces the imposter to dust, eliminating that headache for good.
You're going home, clone. This shield was worth every penny.
At the station, Ethan and Kira blast the computers, forcing the Jupitor virus out of the system. As is the rule of the genre, the expelled monster takes on its giant form. And guess who's passing by, covered in mud with a camera in hand? Cassidy and Devin, in the right place at the right time. Connor forms the Mezzodon Megazord and gives Jupitor no chance. With the Zord's heavy battle axes, he attacks the monster, ensuring the planet Jupiter remains intact. Devin films the entire glorious battle, delivering the scoop they needed. The final focus shifts to Cassidy, now clean and impeccable on the TV screen, delivering her first real report on the Power Rangers' victory. A school field trip takes the Rangers to a museum, where Ethan decides to play digital Indiana Jones. He becomes obsessed with the hieroglyphics in an exhibit about an ancient pharaoh named Tutankhamun. Back at cyberspace, he plugs the symbols into his computer to translate them, only to discover the hard way that too much knowledge can be a dangerous thing. The text reveals a curse upon anyone who dares to to read those words. And just like in any The Mummy movie, reading ancient texts out loud never ends well. Pharaoh Tutankhamun awakens from his millennial slumber. The Blue Ranger is hit with a massive streak of bad luck. Startled, he drops his laptop, and the machine simply explodes, taking all his saved games and school finals with it. If you've ever lost a document before hitting save, you know exactly this kid's pain. And the jinx doesn't stop there. A passing car splashes him with mud, and soon after, Mesogog decides to test Ethan's luck by sending Tyrannodrones. Ethan manages to hold his own, but in the process, he's knocked straight into a crate of rotting fish. While Ethan deals with his olfactory humiliation, the newly awakened Pharaoh decides he needs a queen and chooses none other than Cassidy. Cassidy, who naturally acts like school royalty anyway, embraces the role immediately, declaring herself Queen Cassipatra. Kira tries to nip the problem in the bud and returns to the museum to find a way to break the curse, but Tutankhamun intercepts her. Connor and Ethan alert Tommy, who sends in the cavalry. The problem is, the Pharaoh is absurdly strong. Luckily, Trent arrives just in time to level the playing field and save the team. Still smelling like fish, Ethan manages to translate the rest of the text and discovers the villain's weakness. He must be defeated in the air. This is Haley's cue to shine. She gives Ethan the hovercraft cycle, the fastest vehicle she's ever built. The Pharaoh's ego begins to crumble when Cassidy decides to abdicate the throne. The reason? Tutankhamun starts mistreating Devon. Even high school mean girls have their moral limits. With the Pharaoh isolated, the final battle begins. Elsa shows up to aid the monster, but Ethan arrives on his hovercraft, flying high. He deals with Elsa first, and then takes the fight to the skies, destroying Tutankhamun over the water.
Hovercraft cycle to the rescue!
Naturally, Mesogog hits the emergency button and makes the beast grow, forcing the Rangers to call in the Mezzodon rover to pulverize the threat for good. Meanwhile, Trent secures his own personal victory against Elsa. With the city safe, peace returns to cyberspace. The gang plays foosball, and Cassidy surprises everyone by swallowing her pride and offering Ethan a sincere apology for being such a snob. Peace at cyberspace is short-lived because, in Mesogog's lab, Elsa is already unveiling the newest headache for the Rangers. The only problem is that the monster is still a baby. Mesogog, with his characteristic zero patience policy, warns that the creature needs to grow fast if it's going to be useful. To accelerate the process, Elsa goes after a mysterious type of slime. Tommy and Haley spot her movements, and the Black Ranger decides to investigate. He runs down a few Tyrannodrones with his Dino ATV and manages to collect a sample of the bizarre substance for Haley to analyze. Meanwhile, the heroes' double lives continue to take a toll. At school, Anton Mercer starts losing control in the middle of a lecture. Trent notices and rushes after him, trying to help his adoptive father fight the transformation. But Mercer makes it clear there's nothing that can be done. He turns into Mesogog right in front of the boy and vanishes through an invisible portal. The weight Trent carries, keeping this secret while living under the Ranger's roof, only grows heavier. In the lab, Haley thinks Elsa's slime might be the key to reverting Tommy from his permanent Ranger state. She prepares a reversal process that, surprisingly, works. He emerges from the armor, but disappears. Literally, the Black Dino Gem's power short-circuited, leaving Tommy completely invisible. A brilliant solution created an even more bizarre problem.
What's going on? Yeah, I'm here. Haley, any guesses on what's going on?
Unable to fix an invisible man immediately, the team focuses on what really matters: Ethan's romantic date with Cassidy. The Rangers organize an intensive, Queer Eye-style makeover to save their friend's skin. Kira helps with his style, Connor tries to teach him to dance, and Trent gives him lessons in table etiquette. However, Elsa's slime worked perfectly. The baby monster is now Thornox, a fully grown creature ready for destruction. Ethan and Cassidy's date turns into a disaster, with him embarrassing himself until an invisible Tommy starts lending a secret hand behind the scenes. Elsa, watching from afar and finding the romantic scene unbearable, sends Tyrannodrones to kill the mood for good. Ethan tells Cassidy to run and, morphing on the spot, starts beating down the soldiers with Tommy's ghostly help. Meanwhile, the rest of the team deals with Thornox and the return of the evil White Ranger clone. Ethan arrives on the hovercraft cycle, the Rangers fire the Z-Rex blaster and vaporize the main monster, while Trent mops the floor with the henchmen. Naturally, the monster goes giant. The evil clone summons the Dino Stegazord, and a battle of colossal robots dominates the city, requiring the Rangers to use the Thundersaurus and Mezzodon Megazords in tandem to secure the win. In the end, the adrenaline makes Ethan face reality. He realizes realizes that dating Cassidy while saving the world is a terrible idea. But before he can give the cliché "let's just be friends" speech, Cassidy takes the lead, stating that her reporting career is her priority. The two peacefully agree to remain friends, sparing everyone the teen drama. Tommy finally finds a way to become visible again, but the price is high. Haley uses his Dino gem in a risky experiment that works, but leaves him in a coma. Meanwhile, Elsa unearths an incredibly powerful crystal in the caves. It's practically a counterfeit Dino gem but with energy to spare. Elsa takes the crystal and uses it as a battery to create the white Pterosaurus. With Tommy in the hospital, the monster attacks Reefside. Connor, Ethan, Kira, and Trent try to hold the line, but the beast not only thrashes them, but sucks the powers right out of everyone. This is where things get interesting. Inside his own mind, Tommy wakes up in a strange dreamscape and comes face to face with none other than himself, the Red Zeo Ranger.
Remember me?
It's a test of survival. He must fight his past incarnations to prove his worth. After defeating his Zeo version, he faces the original White Ranger. In the real world, the Ranger's absence during the attack becomes news. Cassidy's boss is convinced the heroes have abandoned the city and gives her a golden opportunity, the lead story of the night, to bash the Rangers on live TV. Devin thinks it's a mistake, but Cassidy is focused on the spotlight. At the hospital, the mood is somber. Without powers and with Tommy hovering between life and death, the team thinks Mesogog has finally won, but when the Pterosaurus attacks again, they decide to go after it anyway, fueled by pure courage. The result is predictable. They get beaten down again. In his mind, Tommy reaches the final boss, the original Green Ranger. The Green Ranger hits hard and tells Tommy to quit, but quitting was never an option for him. By proving he still has the willpower of a true Ranger, his three past forms unite, acknowledge his courage, and restore the Black Dino gem. On TV, Cassidy surprises everyone. Instead of throwing the Rangers under the bus as her boss wanted, she uses her moment of glory to defend the heroes, saying the city owes them everything and that she has no doubt they will return. And she was right. Seconds before the Pterosaurus finishes off the four teens, Tommy appears. He morphs into the Black Ranger in Super Dino mode and destroys the monster with his Brachio staff. The explosion releases the stolen energy and restores the powers of Connor and the others. The beast grows, the Rangers call the Megazord, and finish the job. In the shadows, Mesogog promises severe punishment for his lackeys, while a recovered Tommy tells the team about his mental journey, making it clear that what truly saved him was their support. With their powers back, high school routine sets in again. Connor sees a girl named Krista and decides she's the future Mistress McKnight. The problem is that Krista is an activist focused on saving a 100-year-old tree, and Connor pretends to care about nature just to impress her. Krista organizes a massive protest because Principal Randall, also known as Elsa in her spare time, wants to tear down the tree for a parking lot. The situation spirals when a tractor nearly crushes Krista, forcing Connor to use his super speed to save her. Tommy arrives to de-escalate and disperse the crowd, but everyone forgets about Devin, who had tied himself to the tree for a story and ended up falling asleep. When he wakes up, he's face to face with Zeltrax, who is extracting sap from the trunk. Zeltrax, who survived and is now stronger, tells Devin to warn the Rangers that he's back. After a quick skirmish with Elsa, he transforms the poor tree into the Deadwood monster. When news of Zeltrax's return spreads, Krista decides to go after him herself. Connor tries to stop her, but she thinks he's just afraid. This hits Connor's ego hard. Seeing her real passion for a cause, he starts to doubt himself as a hero. Tommy, stepping into his mentor role, reminds the boy that believing in yourself is what actually makes things happen. The conversation is interrupted by a Triptoid attack. The team engages, soon joined by Tommy. The battlefield becomes a villain convention as Elsa, the White Ranger clone, Zeltrax, and the giant Deadwood monster all show up at once. The brawl splits up. Tommy and Trent focus on Zeltrax, Ethan and Kira deal with the clone, and Connor takes on Triassic mode to destroy Deadwood with the Megazord. But Zeltrax is clever. He escapes with a piece of the monster and heads straight to the energy source under the ancient tree's roots, where he finds and kidnaps Krista. Connor gives chase and the confrontation happens at the edge of a cliff. Zeltrax throws Krista off, but Connor uses his extending arms to catch her mid-air. Frustrated and taking a beating from the villain, Connor remembers Tommy's advice. He pulls strength from within and channels the Triassic energy, unlocking a heavy new battle armor, the Triassic Battleizer. It's enough to turn the tide, thrash Zeltrax, and force him to retreat, badly wounded. The next day, the school gathers to plant a new tree. Connor apologizes to Krista for acting like a jerk at first, and the two finally make peace, toasting to new beginnings. The evil White Ranger clone is trying his hand at being a talent scout. He tries to convince Zeltrax to return to Mesogog's side, but the cyborg refuses instantly. Zeltrax makes it clear that although Mesogog created him, he won't be the one to destroy him. The cyborg is now a lone wolf with no bosses. Meanwhile, Tommy announces to the class they'll have a substitute teacher, Dr. Morton, the world's leading volcanologist, because apparently Reefside High attracts the top of the global scientific community to cover routine absences. In the same room, Cassidy is having a literal bad hair day meltdown. The reason? Devin abandoned his personal assistant duties, claiming he had more important things to do. Those things involve the city's big video game championship. Connor tries to convince Ethan to practice, but the Blue Ranger's ego is through the roof, reminding everyone he's the reigning champ. He doesn't even bother to prepare. During Dr. Morton's lecture about a dormant volcano right under Reefside, Principal Randall, or rather Elsa, listens from the door. A villainous light bulb goes off in her head. She wastes no time, kidnapping the poor professor after class and throwing him straight into the Geno randomizer, transforming the renowned scientist into the horn-rimmed monster. Tommy is in the forest tracking Zeltrax's signal but loses the trail. Seizing the opening, the evil clone challenges Connor and Kira. Zeltrax even shows up to disrupt the fight, but suddenly starts to weaken and vanishes. The real problem begins when Elsa's new monster simply wakes up the city's dormant volcano. Lava starts threatening everything. Trent is tasked with protecting civilians at cyberspace while the other Rangers take a flaming beating. Tommy has to activate Super Dino mode to clear the Triptoid army, and Connor pulls out the Battleizer to handle the rest. When the monster grows, the primary Megazord can't handle the pressure. The solution comes from Tommy, who uses his Brachio staff to summon a tidal wave and brings in the Stegozord to put out the fire for good. Dr. Morton returns to normal, if surviving a giant explosion can be called normal, and the victory belongs to the Rangers. At the video game championship, Ethan finally finds out who his mysterious opponent is. It's Devin. And to the surprise of absolutely no one familiar with the protagonist underestimates his rival trope, Devin massacres Ethan and takes the title.
That's it. Devin wins. Game over.
A fine lesson in humility for the Blue Ranger. The only one not amused is Cassidy, who shows up fuming after realizing she lost her personal errand boy to an arcade cabinet. The Mercer family situation is far from stable. Cassidy and Devin try to score an exclusive interview with Anton Mercer, but the billionaire starts sweating and acting erratically. Trent, knowing full well his father is about to transform into a reptilian monster, rushes the journalists out of the room. Sure enough, Anton turns into Mesogog, destroys his own lab in a fit of rage, and steals a rare plant for his experiments. At the same time, things are spiraling for the White Ranger clone. His powers start fluctuating wildly. Elsa drops the hard truth, which is basically the Highlander rule. There can be only one White Ranger. The universe simply cannot sustain the energy of both for much longer. Desperate and racing against the clock, the clone hacks Ethan's laptop and challenges the Rangers to a battle, demanding to know where Trent is. The chaos escalates quickly into a Zord battle, with the Dino Stegozord and the Triceramax Megazord trading heavy blows. In the lab, Trent is hit by a surge of paralyzing pain. The energy connection is frying both of them simultaneously, causing the clone to lose control of his Zords mid-fight. Taking advantage of the chaotic energy, Mesogog uses the stolen plant to create the Jade Gladiator, who in turn summons two more monsters, Deadwood and Scorch. It's a festival of simultaneous threats. Noticing the clone's weakness, Tommy retakes control of the Dino Stegozord and activates the auxiliary Zords to sweep the secondary monsters off the map. But the main event is personal. Trent meets the clone face to face. Both morph and engage in a brutal fight to the death for the right to exist. The battle is intense, but Trent finally asserts his superiority and eliminates his evil self once and for all. He rushes to join the other Rangers, who had just been thrashed by the Jade Gladiator. As the White Ranger approaches, the silence is heavy. Connor, still suspicious, asks who's inside the suit. Trent removes his visor, and the collective relief is immediate. With the team 100% united and free of imposters, they hold nothing back. They combine almost their entire arsenal to form the colossal Valkosaurus Megazord. In an incredibly epic maneuver, the giant robot slides like a surfer down the Brachiozord's neck and finishes off the Jade Gladiator with a devastating axe strike. At the enemy base, it's pure panic for Elsa. She realizes Mesogog's patience with her failures has finally run out, and her only chance to survive is to attack him when he's most vulnerable. Meanwhile, Anton, in a brief moment of consciousness, congratulates Trent on the day's victories. The Ranger thanks him, but the tension remains. The time to rip Mesogog out of Anton's body is running out. After rotting in the abyss of evil for nearly a year, Lothor finally manages to escape, and he's not playing around. Meanwhile, at cyberspace, life goes on as usual. Kira recognizes Blake from somewhere, and the guy, super casual, hands over tickets to his motocross race. Elsewhere, Shane, Tori, and Dustin find a message from the sensei calling for a secret meeting. When they arrive, the master warns them that Lothor has returned and hands them new wind morphers to fight, since they were powerless. There's just one small detail. It's not the sensei, it's Lothor in disguise. The moment they touch the morphers, they fall under an evil spell. A low blow, but a brilliant one.
We won't let you down, Sensei. Let's do it.
While Connor, Ethan, and Kira watch Blake win the race, Haley detects a cloud of pure evil covering the state, coming straight from Blue Bay Harbor. At the Ninja Academy, Cam begins to suspect the sensei's disappearance. He finds the torn message and a trail of slime from the abyss, realizing instantly that something has gone horribly wrong. By the time Cam rushes back to the academy, the damage is done. Lothor invades the place with his new henchmen from the abyss. The ninja students try to resist, but the situation plummets when Shane, Dustin, and Tori appear. Completely dominated by the spell, they morph into the Wind Rangers and attack their own school. It's a massacre. With no way to defend themselves, the students are shrunken and trapped in bottles by Lothor. To avoid the same fate, Mara and Capri pledge loyalty to the villain, who accepts them on a trial basis. Left with no options, Cam calls Hunter at the Thunder Academy for reinforcements. In Reefside, the Dino Rangers watch the attack via the lab's monitors. Connor, Ethan, and Kira head into battle, clashing head-on with the Wind Rangers and Lothor's army. Cam, Hunter, and Blake watch from above as their friends get dismantled. The Wind Rangers are relentless, forcing the Reefside team to retreat to avoid being destroyed. Watching from his throne, Mesogog is intrigued by the sight of evil Rangers and recognizes the Kelzecs. Seeing a business opportunity, he sends Elsa to track down Lothor. Back at the lab, Connor, with his usual zero patience, suggests simply crushing the Wind Rangers using the Dino Zords. Tommy shuts the idea down immediately, reminding him that they are corrupted heroes who need to be saved, not vaporized. Lothor barely has time to celebrate his new base when he receives an unexpected visitor. Elsa, bearing a direct invitation from Mesogog. Cam, Hunter, and Blake dive headfirst into the abyss of evil to try and recover their powers. The samurai amulet is down there, but Zurgane and his troops are standing guard. The situation quickly spirals. Zurgane attacks, and Cam nearly falls off a cliff until a mysterious figure appears to save him. Meanwhile, the ultimate villain crossover happens. Mesogog and Lothor strike an alliance. In Reefside, the Wind Rangers enter cyberspace looking for a fight. Connor, trying to keep the cafe intact, tells them to meet the team under the harbor bridge in 1 hour. The confrontation under the bridge is brutal, but this time the Dino Rangers hold their own. Just as the Wind Rangers are about to morph and end it all, Cam, Hunter, and Blake land. Kira finally connects the dots and realizes Blake is also a Ranger. The ninja trio pretends they want to join Lothor's dark side. It's the perfect ruse. They trick Shane, Tori, and Dustin into taking the correct power discs, which breaks the brainwashing spell instantly. Back at the lab, they explain that the person who saved Cam in the abyss was the Sensei himself. The two teams are now on the same side, but Tommy and Sensei give them a reality check. Taking down two villains of this caliber won't be easy. In Mesogog's lair, the armies are ready. As soon as Lothor turns his back to lead the attack, Mesogog confesses to Elsa that the alliance is a sham. Lothor is just a pawn in his plan for Jurassic restructuring. Pro tip of villainy: never trust a mutant with a dinosaur head. The final battle is absolute cinematic gold. 11 Power Rangers morphing together against the combined forces of Mesogog and Lothor.
Let's be careful, but let's get it done. Are you guys ready? Ready! Ranger power!
Everyone picks a target. Kira and Tori crush Elsa. Tommy and the Thunder Rangers dismantle Zergain. Cam and Trent take care of the Wolf Blades, while Ethan and Dustin mop the floor with the Grunts. Connor, in Triassic mode, and Shane with his Battleizer, annihilate Lothor's bodyguards. With victory secured, Mara and Capri appear and free the trapped students. And here's the plot twist. It was those two who rescued the sensei while Lothor was napping. They never actually went back to being evil. Back at the lair, the villain alliance crumbles. Mesogog overpowers Lothor with his mental abilities, shrinks his rival, and traps him inside a glass jar like a trophy. The tables have turned in spectacular fashion. Since the power discs only had enough energy for one last transformation, the Ninja Storm team's powers are gone forever. The Dino Rangers promise to keep holding the line against Mesogog, and everything ends the way a good crossover should. Both teams, including Cassidy and Devin, hanging out and watching Blake lift another motocross trophy. Anton Mercer is plagued by nightmares of the atrocities he committed as Mesogog. He wakes up in a cold sweat, deciding this double life has to end once and for all. On the flip side, Mesogog is also fed up with sharing a body with Anton. The constant tug of war for control is draining his power. Seeing her boss stressed out, Elsa hatches a plan straight out of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Attack the Rangers where they are most vulnerable, in their dreams. Over at the cyberspace, the team is wiped out, not from an epic battle, but from a mountain of homework. Tommy, stepping into his mentor role, sends everyone home to get some rest. Only Trent stays behind to pull an all-nighter. Once the others are asleep, Elsa triggers her plan, manifesting the group's subconscious fears into real-world threats. The first target is Tommy. Since he had squid for dinner, his brain conjures Squid Rose, a literal calamari monster. Tommy holds his own before Connor, Ethan, and Kira arrive to form the Thundersaurus Megazord, turning the creature into fried seafood. Kira is the next victim. Having spent the night working on a reptile report, she dreams of a giant crocodile who, for some bizarre reason, thinks he's in love with her. Connor and Ethan show up to kill the mood, and the scaly stalker. Even Ethan doesn't escape, dreaming of a dancing Rumba monkey inspired by a poster in his room. Ethan actually starts applauding the monkey's performance before the team gathers to blow it away with the Z-Rex blaster. But the peak of absurdity is reserved for Connor. His mom asked him to get a head start on Christmas shopping, so his brain summons the rude elf. While Connor is getting beaten up by an elf in his dream, Tommy, Ethan, and Kira wake up in the real world. They figure out Elsa's plan and transfer their Dino Gem energy to their still snoring friend. With this power boost, Connor accesses Triassic mode within his own mind and drags the elf into a Christmas-themed Triassic dimension. The stakes escalate, Zords are called, and the giant rude elf literally traps the Mezzodon Megazord inside a massive gift bag. Tommy has to summon the Brachiozord and fire an energy sphere to rip the bag open, freeing the team so they can finally annihilate the elf with the Triceramax Megazord. Back on the island, Mesogog is predictably furious over the failure. He turns to Elsa and promises that now it's her turn to live through a nightmare. After this exhausting mental marathon, the Rangers finally get some sleep. Even Trent hits his limit and passes out on the cyberspace sofa. The competitive spirit is high, and Trent surprises everyone by completely schooling Connor on the soccer field. Elsewhere, a different kind of game is afoot. Elsa presents Mesogog with her newest tool of chaos, a magic pen. She decides to take the saying, "the pen is mightier than the sword," to a terrifyingly literal level. Trent goes to the cyberspace to meet Carson Brady, a famous comic book artist interested in seeing the boys' portfolio. Principal Randall, who we all know as Elsa, conveniently shows up and hands her pen to Carson, insisting he use it for his next big project. Under the object's influence, the artist spends the entire night in a drawing frenzy. The next day, while the Rangers are helping Connor practice, reality simply vanishes around them. The team is sucked into a parallel dimension, the world of Carson's new comic book. The welcoming committee is anything but friendly. Phrygia, the Ice Queen and ruler of this paper world, hates intruders and starts blasting immediately. The Rangers morph, and the battle begins across 2 dimensions. Outside the comic, Anton Mercer checks out Trent's art, is impressed, and decides to call Carson. Later, at the cyberspace, the artist shows his finished masterpiece to Trent. The kid thinks a Power Rangers comic is cool, until he hits a panel where Tommy is screaming for help. Things get worse when Haley asks how it ends, only to discover the story concludes with the brutal death of the entire team. Carson admits he barely remembers drawing the pages, but refuses to cancel the publication of his masterpiece. Putting the pieces together, Trent sees Mesogog's signature all over this. With no other choice, he slips away, morphs into the White Ranger, and does the only logical thing. He grabs Carson's magic pen and draws himself into the story.
White Ranger, Dino power.
The White Ranger drops right into the paper battlefield. Using the combined power of the Dino gems, the united team defeats Phrygia and escapes the hand-drawn dimension. However, the ice villain hitches a ride back to the real world, ready to conquer it. But Connor, now in Triassic mode, isn't playing around. He uses his battleizer to vaporize the creature for good, while the White Ranger snaps the cursed pen. At the villain base, Mesogog's patience with Elsa has reached its limit, but she throws it back in his face, claiming Anton Mercer's presence is what makes him weak. The comment only makes the mutant dinosaur more furious. To wrap up the day, Carson offers Trent a partnership, excitedly revealing that the project will be funded by a great guy named Anton Mercer. Trent gives a weak smile, knowing all too well the nightmare his adoptive father is hiding. Just then, Cassidy and Devin burst into the cyberspace, cameras ready, set to dive into another chaotic report. Ethan is at the peak of his nerd career, crushing Devin in a game of Dragon War with a super rare Ruby Dragon card. It's basically the schoolyard equivalent of summoning Exodia, but the joy is short-lived because Principal Randall appears out of nowhere and confiscates the cards. In class, Ethan is a total wreck. The rest of the crew, Connor, Kira, and Trent, tease him for caring so much about a kid's game. Tommy gives the standard lecture about not gaming on school property, but as a good mentor, he promises to talk to the principal to get the card back. But when Tommy walks into Randall's office, he catches her right as she's transforming into Elsa. The secret is finally out. Tommy alerts the team and heads to the courtyard where the two start trading blows. The bell rings and the students walk out to find their teacher in a martial arts showdown with the principal. Elsa reveals herself, drops an "I quit," and vanishes through a portal. The Rangers are stunned they never realized they were the same person, which is hilarious considering her disguise was just a pair of glasses, a bun, and a bad attitude. Meanwhile, Trent decides to play the lone hero and goes to demand the card back from Elsa. Bad move. She thrashes him, kicks him into the Geno randomizer, and transforms the Ruby Dragon card into a real monster. Anton Mercer finds a passed-out Trent, warns him the Rangers are in danger, and tells him to go help, right before feeling the Mesogog transformation coming on strong. Trent arrives on his Dino ATV to save the day, but Elsa appears shortly after and, to make matters worse, reveals to everyone that Trent is hiding a secret. Back at the lab, Trent only confesses to going after the card alone. Tommy gives him a stern lecture, but the alarm cuts the argument short. The Ruby Dragon is attacking again. Trent tries to handle it alone one more time, but in the end the team has to unite and use the Z-Rex blaster. The beast grows, the Megazords deploy, and the dragon is erased from existence. The next day at school, Anton Mercer shows up, praising Tommy and suggesting he take over as principal. Everything seems calm until the stolen Ruby Dragon card falls out of Anton's pocket. Ethan recognizes it instantly. Panic hits Anton as he feels Mesogog taking over. He flees into a classroom. The Rangers follow and witness Anton transform into the villain right before their eyes.
Please leave me.
Mesogog accuses Trent of betrayal. Connor, putting the pieces together, snaps back that Trent betrayed the team. Kira realizes this was the big secret. Mesogog screams, reverts to Anton, apologizes to his son in a voice full of pain, and disappears. The atmosphere is heavy. Tommy, Connor, Ethan, and Kira stare Trent down. The kid realizes that this time, the jig is truly up. The air of betrayal hangs heavy in the lab. Connor, Ethan, and Kira are completely shocked to find out Anton Mercer and Mesogog share a body, but what really hurts is knowing Trent kept it from them the whole time. Tommy lays down the law. If the kid doesn't have an excellent justification, his career as the White Ranger is over. While waiting for answers, the group enters a deep moment of reflection. Kira remembers how she resisted the hero life and grew in the process. Connor admits he was a total arrogant jerk who only thought about himself before putting on the red suit. Ethan looks back at the old days when the highlight of his day was hacking the school sprinklers. They even revisit Tommy's absurd legacy and how he never let anything keep him down. Then comes the elephant in the room. Connor brings up how, under the influence of the White Dino gem, Trent almost destroyed them all. Kira tries to defend him, reminding them he was possessed at the time, but hiding the identity of the main villain doesn't exactly help his case now. Trent finally shows up for his trial. He explains he promised his father to keep the secret, but Tommy shoots straight. The team's trust has been broken. With no way out, Trent spills everything. How he found the hidden portal, how the gem corrupted him, and how Anton saved him from the evil's control. The boy reveals he kept the secret because because Anton believed he could fix the situation alone, and both were searching for a cure to separate the scientist from the monster once and for all. Speaking of the monster, Mesogog has already punished Elsa for trying to betray him, and used a potion that finally physically separated him from Anton Mercer. He orders the scientist imprisoned, and, to celebrate his new independent form, creates a new threat with the very creative name, Ugly Monster. The alarm sounds. Trent begs for a chance to prove his loyalty in battle. Tommy, pragmatic as ever, decides to give him that vote of confidence. The street battle is brutal. The ugly monster lives up to its name and its power, even taking down Connor in Triassic mode. It's at this critical moment that Trent leaps into action, saves the Red Ranger, and proves his worth. The team aligns, forms the Z-Rex blaster in super mode, and blasts the creature to bits. Of course, it comes back giant, accompanied by an evil version of the Thundersaurus Megazord. Trent takes control of the Dino Stegazord and finishes off the ugly monster flawlessly. Back at the base, the mood is one of redemption. Tommy acknowledges the team is stronger together and welcomes Trent back. Kira and Ethan vote yes immediately. Connor, always the skeptic, asks the question that really matters. Is Trent willing to face Mesogog, knowing what that means for his father? With a firm stance, Trent guarantees that Mesogog must fall, no matter the cost.
It has to be defeated, no matter what.
Mesogog's patience has hit its limit. He imprisons Anton Mercer and begins torturing the scientist while preparing his magnum opus, a giant cannon designed to transform all of humanity into dinosaurs. A classic villain plan for someone who doesn't play nice. Hiding in the shadows, Trent watches everything, trying to figure out Mesogog's move against Tommy and Haley. While the end of the world is being planned, the Rangers' biggest concern is the school prom. Connor is parading around with a list of potential dates. Ethan doesn't even want to go, and Kira is in her usual blasé mood. Devin even tries to work up the courage to ask Cassidy, but she shuts him down with an ultimatum. Either they discover the Power Rangers' identities now, or they're fired. To make the mutation cannon work, Mesogog needs a massive amount of energy. Plan A is to steal the Dino Gems, but as a plan B, he simply sucks back all the power he gave to Elsa. Seeing a window of opportunity, Trent emerges from hiding and strikes a deal with the monster, the Dino Gems in exchange for his father's freedom. Discarded and powerless, Elsa ends up on a rooftop where she runs into Zeltrax, who is thirsting for revenge. Elsewhere, Ethan is in line for tickets to Asteroid Conquest 2 when duty calls. He runs off, not noticing that Devin, dressed in a bizarre alien costume, is filming his every move. The Rangers arrive to intercept Zeltrax, who is dragging a mysterious woman away. When they morph, Devin catches it all on camera.
You know what time it is. Ready! Oh.
Connor activates Triassic mode with the Battleizer and lays into Zeltrax, but the cyborg manages to escape before the final blow. Tommy rushes to rescue the hostage and is shocked to see it's Elsa, finally free from her brainwashing. They take Elsa back to the lab, unaware of a fatal error. Zeltrax finds the secret entrance to the base. Inside, Trent comes clean about Mesogog's cannon. Their only chance to invade the fortress is using the Dino Gems as bait. To ensure success, Haley unveils the Triceramax Command Center, a heavy assault vehicle created specifically to demolish the enemy base. Trent returns to the fortress and demands Mesogog release his father, but trusting a guy with a reptile face is never a good idea. Mesogog attacks Trent's mind, flooring him. As he falls, Trent manages to open the invisible portal just in time for the other Rangers to invade. The island turns into absolute chaos. The Rangers hold off hordes of Tyrannodrones while Haley pilots the Triceramax toward the cannon. The drones try to block the vehicle's laser beam, but Connor and Ethan clear the way. Haley fires, blowing the cannon to smithereens and triggering a chain reaction that begins to sink the entire fortress. Amidst the rubble, the machinery overloads and swallows Mesogog. Trent seizes the confusion, recovers the Dino Gems, and rescues Anton Mercer. The place is collapsing, and the Rangers have to evacuate without waiting for Trent. Fortunately, father and son escape at the very last second. When Tommy asks about Mesogog, Trent says what everyone wants to hear. The villain is likely history. The problem? While they were saving the world, Zeltrax invaded the unprotected lab, kidnapped Elsa, and left the Rangers' headquarters in ruins. Reality hits hard when the Rangers return home to find their lab completely destroyed. The system system's black box confirms their fears. Zeltrax cleaned house and took Elsa. Anton Mercer, watching the destruction, feels the weight of guilt, remembering that it was he, as Mesogog, who created the cybernetic monster. It doesn't take long for Zeltrax to announce his presence, unleashing his colossal Zelzord in the middle of Reefside. With Elsa held hostage inside, the situation demands full force. Tommy decides to invade the giant machine on foot to rescue her, but is immediately met by an army of Triptoids. While Trent stays on the ground holding back the grunts, the rest of the team deploys the Megazords to go head-to-head with the Zelzord. Seeing that Tommy needs backup inside, Kira leaves her cockpit to help him. The two reach Elsa, but Zeltrax isn't letting anyone leave through the front door. He activates his final, terrifying form. It's a brutal fight, but Tommy and Kira combine their strength and finally destroy the cyborg once and for all. Outside, the situation is critical. The Zelzord is simply too massive for the Megazords to handle. Realizing there is no other way, Tommy gives the hardest order: summon all the Dino Zords and activate the machine's self-destruct system. Connor and Ethan initiate the sequence and bail at the last possible second before a spectacular explosion reduces the Zelzord to ash. The dust barely settles before the nightmare returns. Mesogog didn't die on the island. He absorbed enough energy from the Dino Gems to undergo a grotesque mutation, transforming into the Meso Monster. He announces that now, he truly will wipe humanity off the map. For the last time, the Rangers shout their classic morphing cry and charge, but the beast is overleveled. Even Connor's battleizer barely scratches him, and to make things worse, Meso Monster clones his own DNA, multiplying the problem by 4. With no physical alternatives left, the Rangers make a drastic decision. They summon every last drop of life energy from their Dino Gems. The raw power manifests as a giant T-Rex made of golden energy, which literally devours the villain and his clones. Game over for Mesogog.
Summon the power of the gem!
The price of victory is high, the power is completely drained, and the Rangers revert to normal, with the gems now nothing more than pieces of colored rock. Tommy suggests they keep the crystals as mementos and keep their secret locked away. But the secret isn't that safe. Cassidy and Devin recorded everything. They have the tape that would prove the Rangers' identities and guarantee their careers. But in a rare moment of humanity and friendship, Cassidy hands the tape over to the group, choosing to protect her friends over getting the scoop of a lifetime. With the world truly saved, it's time for prom. Devin and Cassidy arrive together, forming the couple no one expected. Connor shows up with Krista, the activist girl, proving he's learned to value what matters. Ethan brings the girl he met in the cinema line, and Trent announces he's headed to art school. Even the school gets back on track, with Elsa officially taking over as principal and receiving a dance invitation from Anton Mercer. Tommy, who swears he just wants a quiet life, as if that were possible for him, takes the stage. He makes a toast to everything they've been through, introduces Kira's band, and lets the music play. The world is safe, and for the first time in a long time, they can just be normal teenagers.
Here she is!